Gaza police chief aide killed in Israeli airstrike. Investigators begin executing arrest warrant on South Korean president. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Shuhaida Arifin and you're watching World Today. The Gaza police chief and his aide were killed in an Israeli airstrike in the southern city of Khan Yunis on Thursday. A ministry statement confirmed that Mahmoud Salah and his deputy Hussam Shahwan were killed in a dawn strike by the Israeli army. The ministry accused the Israeli army of deliberately seeking to spread chaos in Gaza and exacerbate the humanitarian suffering of its citizens. It called the killing of the two police officials a blatant disregard to international law by targeting the police force despite its role as a civil protection body. Despite a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire, the Israeli army has continued its offensive on Gaza, which has resulted in the deaths of over 45,550 victims, mostly women and children, since October 2023. In November, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel also faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice for its war on the enclave. The Palestinian Authority temporarily halted operations of Qatar's Al Jazeera television in the territory, including its broadcasts, citing the network's dissemination of inciting material. The order said the decision was temporary but did not specify an end date. The Culture, Interior and Communications Minister made the decision jointly because the channel broadcast material that was deceiving and stirring strife. The Palestinian Authority criticized Al Jazeera last week over its coverage of the week-long standoff between Palestinian security forces and fighters in the Jenin camp in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Al Jazeera denounced Wednesday's decision as an attempt to discourage it from reporting spiraling events in the occupied territories, according to a statement. It called on the Palestinian Authority to rescind the decision and allow its journalists to report freely from the West Bank without intimidation. 3,500 children are at risk of dying from malnutrition and lack of food in Gaza by the end of 2024. The matter was disclosed by the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics. A global monitoring body also informed that approximately 22% of the population of Gaza is now facing a severe food disaster. The city's population has decreased by 6% since the war erupted in October 2023. The Bureau added that Gaza now needs more humanitarian aid than before. It also appealed to foreign countries to continue channeling aid despite being blocked by the Zionist regime. The past 3 months have been the harshest for Palestinians due to Israeli limiting entry for relief supplies, widespread famine, disease outbreaks, and the collapse of the health sector. The dire shortage of flour has led to the shutdown of most bread factories and community kitchens. Bread is a lifeline for Gaza's residents, yet only 4 bakeries operated by the World Food Programme remain functional due to flour and fuel shortages as of December. Brazilian Air Force FAB investigators are analyzing flight records from the Embraer 190 which crashed in Kazakhstan in December. The decoding of the plane's recorded data will be undertaken by FAB's Data, Reading and Analysis Laboratory. The joint effort is done in collaboration with technicians from Kazakhstan, where the plane crash occurred. also involve Azerbaijan, the origin of the flight, and home to the airline, and Russia, the flight's final destination. Still photographs from Brazilian Air Force showed officials in meeting with investigators and the Vox and data recorders from the crash plane. Embraer 190 crashed near Aktau, Kazakhstan on 25th December, resulting in 38 deaths. This incident has created tension between Russia and Azerbaijan, with the latter alleging that the plane was accidentally shot down by Russian forces. South Korean investigators said they had begun executing their arrest warrant for impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, the first time the country has ever sought to arrest a sitting leader. The Corruption Investigation Office, CIO, is probing Yoon's short-lived declaration of martial law. Yoon, who has already been suspended from duty by lawmakers, would become the first sitting president in South Korean history to be arrested. Senior CIO prosecutor Lee Tae-hwan was seen entering the compound with other officials. Dozens of police buses and hundreds of uniformed police lined the street outside the compound in central Seoul. Some 2,700 police and 135 police buses have been deployed to the area to prevent clashes after Yoon's supporters faced off with anti-Yoon demonstrators on Thursday. Yoon has been holed up inside the residence since a court approved the warrant to detain him earlier this week, vowing to fight authorities seeking to question him over his failed martial law bid. The embattled leader issued the bungled declaration on 3rd of December that led to his impeachment and has left him facing arrest, imprisonment, or at worst, the death penalty. A small plane crashed through the roof of a furniture warehouse in Southern California on Thursday, killing 2 people and injuring at least 15. The plane collided with the building around 2:15 p.m. local time. According to police, the injuries range from minor to severe, and 10 people were taken to the hospital for treatment. On the other hand, those who sustained only minor injuries were treated and released at the scene of the incident. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, the plane was a single-engine Vance RV-10. The incident, which remains under investigation, occurred about 3 kilometers away from the Fullerton Municipal Airport. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, will be in charge of the investigation. Now, 7th January marks 5 years since the Chinese authorities identified coronavirus in 2020. The first cluster of cases emerged in December 2019 in Wuhan, China, with officials accused of covering up the outbreak for weeks before a growing death toll and rumors forced the government to reveal the epidemic.
The World Health Organization (WHO) declared COVID-19 a pandemic on 11th of March 2020. Since then, over 7 million deaths and more than 700 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 across 234 countries were reported to the Global Health Authority. The first person to receive a coronavirus vaccine was 91-year-old Margaret Keenan in Coventry, England. Since then, over 13 billion vaccine doses have been administered according to the data from WHO. The COVID-19 pandemic led to the worst global economic recession since World War II, dramatically impacting global trade, causing massive job losses and exacerbating poverty. The pandemic was also bringing the education system to its knees and 1.6 billion learners negatively affected by school closures. On 5th of May 2023, WHO announced that COVID-19 no longer represented a global health emergency, a major step towards the end of the pandemic. WHO's Emergency Committee recommended the UN agency declare an end to the public health emergency of international concern, which had been in place for over 3 years.
Apple agrees to pay $95 million lawsuit accusing Siri spying on conversations. There are more after this. The average temperature in China in 2024 was the highest since 1961. According to the National Climate Center, the national average reading in 2024 stood at 10.9 degrees Celsius, 1.01 degrees Celsius above the annual average.
The previous record was set in 2023, which was 10.71 degrees Celsius. A total of 19 provincial-level regions logged record high temperatures last year, including Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei, Shanxi, Henan and Shanxi. Average precipitation across the country reached 697.7 millimeter in 2024, 9% more than the annual average. In 2024, China logged its hottest month in the history of observation in July, as well as the hottest August and the warmest autumn on record. China is the leading emitter of the greenhouse gases scientists say are driving global warming. However, Beijing has pledged net carbon dioxide emissions will peak by 2030 and be brought to net zero by 2060.
Indian authorities said on Thursday they had completed moving toxic waste from the site of the 1984 Bhopal gas leak disaster, which killed more than 5,000 people, to a disposal facility where it will take 3 to 9 months to incinerate. A convoy of trucks were seen leaving the site late on Wednesday, with authorities saying the disposal process would follow proper safety guidelines outlined by the government.
पर लगभग 30 वाहनों के एक पूरे कारकेड में उन अवशेषों को लेकर के उन अवशेषों को विशिष्ट तरीके से जो उसके निर्धारित एसओपी है उसके अंतर्गत उसको नष्ट करने के लिए इन्हें रवाना किया गया है, जहां पर औद्योगिक खासतौर पर औद्योगिक जो रासायनिक पदार्थ होते हैं उनको विनिष्ट करने की एक एसओपी के अंतर्गत जो प्रक्रिया है उसका पालन कराया जाएगा.
In the early hours of 3rd December 1984, methyl isocyanate gas leaked from a pesticide factory owned by American Union Carbide Corporation, poisoning more than 500,000 people in Bhopal, capital of the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. Built in 1969, the Union Carbide plant, which is now owned by Dow Chemical, was seen as a symbol of industrialization in India, generating thousands of jobs for the poor and at the same time manufacturing cheap pesticides for millions of farmers.
The man who reportedly rented the Tesla Cybertruck that exploded outside a hotel owned by President-elect Donald Trump in Las Vegas was a member of the U.S. military's Special Forces. Pentagon said Matthew Allen Liversberger was on leave from active duty at the time of the incident.
The Cybertruck filled with fuel containers and fireworks erupted early Wednesday. One person inside the vehicle was killed and 7 bystanders injured. U.S. media have identified Liversberger as the man who rented the Cybertruck, though authorities have not yet confirmed that or the identity of the person who died inside the vehicle. The blast came just hours after an electric pickup truck plowed into a crowd in New Orleans' French Quarter, killing at least 15. Initially, investigators were probing any potential link between the two incidents. However, authorities in New Orleans said they believe the attacker there acted alone, while the FBI described the Vegas incident as isolated.
Iran paid homage to military commander Qasem Soleimani during an event celebrated in Tehran on Thursday. 3rd January marks 5 years since the military commander was assassinated in a United States missile strike in Iraq, a death which caused a spike in already fraught tensions between Iran and the United States.
Soleimani was blamed by Washington for masterminding attacks by Iran-aligned militias on U.S. forces in the region, and he died alongside Commander Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. Soleimani, a 62-year-old general, was Tehran's most prominent military commander and, as a head of the Quds forces, the foreign arm of the Revolutionary Guards, the architect of Iran's spreading influence in the Middle East. Soleimani became head of the force in 1998, after which he quietly strengthened Iran's ties with Hezbollah in Lebanon, as well as Syria's government, acquiring celebrity status at home and among anti-US and anti-Israeli factions. Last year, as mourners attended the memorial for Soleimani, nearly 100 people were killed in a blast.
Brazil assumed the rotating presidency of the BRICS group on Wednesday. The agenda will focus on strengthening cooperation among global South nations and reforming international governance, as well as creating mechanisms to facilitate trade among its members.
According to a statement from the Brazilian government, the group is one of the key political and diplomatic forums for global South countries, focusing on cooperation across various sectors. Its key goals include developing payment systems to simplify trade and investment between members, promoting inclusive and responsible governance or artificial intelligence, and improving financing mechanisms to address climate change. The agenda also emphasizes collaborative projects among global South countries, particularly in public health, and strengthening the institutional structure of BRICS. Brazil will also organize various meetings, bringing together representatives from member countries to discuss and implement its priorities.
Venezuela's GDP shows to have grown by over 9% in 2024, as stated by President Nicolas Maduro. Maduro said the data showed a very high level of growth in the real economy and singled out hydrocarbon as a specific area of growth.
El 2024, de acuerdo a todos los datos científicos, estadísticos, técnicos, va a superar el 9% del crecimiento del Producto Interno Bruto, con un altísimo nivel de crecimiento de la economía real. Y también de la economía de los hidrocarburos, que nos vamos recuperando, Ramonet, con inversión propia, con tecnología propia y con el inmenso esfuerzo, sabiduría y preparación y capacitación de la clase obrera de los hidrocarburos venezolanos.
Venezuela's economy has experienced a prolonged crisis in recent years, marked by triple-digit inflation and the exodus of millions of citizens seeking better opportunities elsewhere. In 2019, the government loosened controls on the private sector, allowing for informal dollarization, which provided a lifeline to key sectors of the economy. However, analysts believe this strategy has not been sufficient for a full economic recovery.
Apple has agreed to pay $95 million to settle a lawsuit accusing its digital assistant Siri of listening on users' private conversations. The proposed settlement, detailed in a court filing accessed on Thursday, came with Apple holding firm that it did nothing wrong.
A class action lawsuit filed 5 years ago accused Siri of listening on private conversations of people with iPhones, iPads, HomePods, or other Apple devices enhanced with the digital assistant. The California-based tech giant has made user privacy a big part of its brand image, and one of the reasons it tightly controls its ecosystem of hardware and software. According to the lawsuit, talk captured by unintended Siri activation were obtained by Apple and perhaps even shared with third parties. A proposed settlement fund of $95 million would be used to pay no more than $20 per Siri device to U.S. owners who had private conversations captured without permission. The agreement also requires Apple to confirm it has deleted any overheard talk and make user choices clear when it comes to voice data gathered to improve Siri.
Over 300,541 migrants crossed the Darian Gap into Panama in 2024. Panama's President Jose Raul Mulino said on Thursday that this was 41% fewer than the record number who made the perilous jungle crossing from South America a year earlier.
La migración irregular, hemos logrado una reducción del 41% en el flujo de migrantes que atraviesan la selva del Darién. pasando de 511.103 en diciembre del 2023 a 300.549 en el mismo periodo del 2024.
The dangerous Darian Gap connects Colombia with the Central American nation of Panama, and increasing numbers of migrants were making the journey north to reach the United States. Mulino has taken a harder stance on migration since taking office last July, including fencing parts of the Darian with barbed wire, imposing fines, and using flights funded by the United States to deport migrants. Officials with Panama's National Migration Service said some 69% of migrants in 2024 were Venezuelans. Many Venezuelans have been fleeing a prolonged economic collapse in the once prosperous South American oil-producing nation.
In sports, FAM restructuring gains momentum. Stay with us.
Dengan semangat pantang mundur, aksi perjuangan terus diledakkan. Dalam pertembungan seterusnya, berdepan pasukan Helang Merah, perlawanan bola sepak Liga Super. Jumaat 10 Januari, Kelantan Darul Naim FC bertemu Kedah Darul Aman FC 8.30 malam di saluran OK dan saluran Sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstreaman langsung di RTM Click.
All right, starting off our sports segment this afternoon. The restructuring of Harimau Malaya, the national football team, continued to gain momentum as the Football Association of Malaysia FAM appointed another foreign sports expert. The national body announced the appointment of Australian sports scientist Dr. Craig Duncan as the nation's team's head of high performance and sports medicine, effective this month.
Duncan is renowned for his extensive experience and expertise in human performance. In a statement, the governing body for football said Duncan will oversee areas related to high performance, including physical fitness, recovery, sports science, nutrition, sports psychology, and staff development. The statement said Duncan envisions creating a world-class framework for sports science and sports medicine to enable Malaysia's senior, junior, and women's teams to achieve sustained success while fostering a high-performance culture across all levels. Duncan has been the CEO of Performance Intelligence Agency for 15 years since 2009 and served as a head of sports science at Football Federation Australia (FFA) for 4 years from 2014 to 2018, during which the Times Socceroos won the 2015 Asian Cup.
Moving on to tennis, reigning US Open and Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka reached the last 8 of the Brisbane International on Thursday with a victory over Yulia Putintseva. Belarusian Sabalenka fought back from 5-3 down in the first set to eventually round out the winner 7-6, 6-4.
Sabalenka smacked 6 aces and saved 2 of 3 break points in a quality 1 hour 49-minute victory. It came 5 days before Putintseva celebrates her 30th birthday, a party Sabalenka said she hopes she's still invited to attend. The 2024 Brisbane runner-up to Elena Rybakina, Sabalenka has now reached quarterfinals or better in 13 consecutive tournaments. Two-time defending Australian Open champion Sabalenka will face Mary Buskova for a semi-final spot. Buskova spoiled the prospect of an all-Belarusian clash between Sabalenka and Victoria Azarenka with a 6-4, 6-4 win over the 10th-seeded Azarenka.
Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic's bid for the 100th ATP Tour title gained momentum as the Serb thumped fellow veteran Gael Monfils 6-3, 6-3 to reach the Brisbane International quarterfinals. Djokovic will be gunning for an 11th Australian Open title when the season's opening Grand Slam begins later this month.
The 37-year-old, who's looking to join Roger Federer and Jimmy Connors as players who have won at least a century of titles, breezed through the first set on the back of a solitary break in the fourth game. Djokovic never looked back from there as he powered through the second set, extend his win against the Frenchman nearly 2 decades after their first encounter in the opening round of the 2005 US Open. Djokovic and Monfils played an entertaining match, but the 37-year-old Serb was always in control as he notched his 20th straight win over the Frenchman. Djokovic will step up his preparations for a tilt at the 25th Grand Slam title at the Australian Open when he takes on big serving American Rayleigh Opelka in the next round. Over in Hong Kong, Andrei Rublev's Australian Open preparations took an unexpected hit as the top seed was dumped out of the Hong Kong Open in the second round by Fabian Marozsan on Thursday. With the first Grand Slam of the year just over a week away, the Hungarian ranked 58th in the world won 7-5-3-6-6-3 in just under 2 hours. Marozsan next meet China's Zhong Chengshang, 50th in the ATP rankings, for a place in the semi-finals of the 250 event. The Russian Rublev, ranked 8th, was the defending Hong Kong champion and had been pursuing a 76 tour level quarter-final. The year 2024 was a good one for Rublev as he won his first title of the season in Hong Kong. Rublev won his second Masters 1000 title in Madrid, becoming the only man to win in both the singles and doubles in the event. But unlike last year, Rublev's campaign in Hong Kong ended early and he will not try to pick up things in the build-up events for the Australian Open.
Elsewhere, Poland returned to the semi-finals of the United Cup Mixed Team Tournament for a third successive year after hard-fought singles victory in Sydney handed them an unassailable 2-love lead over Britain on Thursday.
Iga Swiatek settled a tie after an almighty battle with Katie Boulter, prevailing 6-7, 6-1, 6-4 as last year's runners-up booked a last 4 clash with Kazakhstan in the $10 million tournament before the Australian Open. Swiatek squandered a 4-1 lead in the opening set, which her opponent clinched in 74 minutes after an inspired comeback. But the world number 2 was not to be denied as she romped through the second set and shrugged off a right leg issue in the decider to outlast Boulter in a match lasting nearly 3 hours. Her Cucks clinched a tight opening set when Billie Harris sent ups on Sunday.
And that's it from us this afternoon in our top story today. Gaza police chief and aide killed in Israeli airstrike. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM for more news, or you can stream us live on RTM Click's website and mobile app. Till then, I'm Shuhaida Arifin. From river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching and have a nice day ahead.